What's going on? My name is Kram and welcome to a video on how to go from this to this. Now why should you listen to me? I'm only 17 years old, but there's no videos out there on younger people teaching younger people. It's all older people teaching younger people. So, in today's video, what I wanted to do was, from a young person to another young person, teach you guys how you can pass the test. It's fresh in my mind exactly what's in the test. Why should you listen to me? I was on the road at the age of 16 and 6 months, the youngest possible age to be on the road by yourself. I had a motorcycle license. I passed the test first go, easy, flying colours. My car test, I passed my learners for my car, first go, straight away. My L2 test, which was actual practical, first go, straight away. And my P test, first go, straight away. Now that you've heard a little bit about me and my story, it's time for me to sit down at my desk and go through this stuff properly in thorough detail and teach you how to pass the test. Okay, so we're at the desk. Now, to get your P license in Australia anyway, you do need a certain amount of hours on your learner's license, which is obviously you driving with another person that's a fully licensed driver for X amount of hours. In my state, it's 50 hours. In other states, it's 100 hours. In other states, it's 150 hours. Each state is kind of different, and all over the world, it is slightly different on how the system works. But basically, to work up to your P test date for your P license, you will need to complete a certain amount of hours to get there. Now, when you book your P test, first things first, I suggest strongly to get an early date, an early part in the morning to do your test, okay? If you get the last test of the day at 5 o'clock, the instructor or the assessor, he just wants to go home and knock off work. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you get a test straight away in the morning. Now this obviously helps you with a few things. Number one, facts state that in the morning when you wake up is your most productive few hours of the day. The first 3 to 4 hours from when you wake up is when your mind is actually most productive. So if you get a test which is early in the morning, not long after you wake up, you will be working a lot better than usual, okay? Your mind will be fully onto everything, and you'll just you'll just do everything much better. And facts actually prove that you are a lot more productive in the morning. So I strongly suggest getting a time slot in the morning when you actually book your test. So that's the first helpful tip. Now, the second thing when you go for your P test is basically the things that they break it down to and how they actually mark you. Now, the first thing that you will have to complete in the test will obviously be a 3-point turn. So this will consist of parking up in a street. Now obviously you need to know how to park properly in the first place, so just pull over to the side of the road. You need about that much gap in between your tire and the actual gutter or the curb or whatever you want to call it. Basically there should be about less than 20 centimeters roughly, and then you should be pretty right to actually go towards the side of the gutter. So that's the tip number 2. So you need to be able to park. Now when doing the 3-point turn, I will actually show you and explain how to do the 3-point turn properly, but that is one crucial thing that you do need to pass in the test. The second thing you need to pass in the test is obviously a reverse parallel park. Now for most people this is the trickiest one because you have to get this right. Now you do get 4 maneuvers to do it. I will teach you how to do it in only 2 maneuvers, and then obviously if you muck up then you've got the 2 extra maneuvers to be able to complete that. So that was actually going to be a good thing obviously, but a reverse parallel park is something you crucially need to get right for the test. The third thing in the test will be a hazard perception test. So the assessor will obviously explain and tell you to point out every hazard in the area. Most likely he will take you onto a busy street somewhere and tell you to point out all the hazards. So hazards can include people walking out onto the street, cars turning in and out, and just lots of different hazards, and I will explain that further on the video as well. And the fourth fourth thing in the test is obviously just how you drive in general, whether you're using your head checks, your indicators, whether you're driving at the speed limit or not, and just generally how you drive in general. And they're probably the four big things and how you actually marked during the P test. So we're going to start off with number one, and number one is essentially how you can do a proper 3-point turn and the proper way to do it. The main things you need to know with a 3-point turn is head check, indicator. They're the two big things. You can do a perfect 3-point turn, but if you don't indicate and you don't head check, fail straight away. So make sure when you're doing the 3-point turn, even if you over exaggerate the fact that you're doing a head check, that shouldn't matter too much. Just make sure when you're doing a 3-point turn, you always head check and you always use your indicator. And now I'm going to show you how to do one properly. First things first, indicate right, check, head check, always important. Right, go to the gutter. Just before you reach the gutter, you want to turn the other way. Then quickly indicate left, go to reverse, head check, reverse, out, indicate right, head check, straight out like that. 3-point turn complete. Now you know how to do a 3-point turn properly, we're going to move on to a reverse parallel park. Now, as I said before, a reverse parallel park can be pretty much the trickiest thing in the test, and it is actually a relatively hard thing to do. But once you use, my method on how you can actually do it properly, you should be able to pass. The main things you do need to keep out for when doing a 3-point turn are indicators and letting the car behind you know that you're doing a reverse parallel park. But if you don't give them any notice, fail. Now, most likely when you do the reverse parallel park, there actually won't be anyone behind you because the assessor will most likely take you into like a small street where it's not very busy, but you do have to imagine and cater as if it's a full-on busy street and you're actually taking a reverse parallel park. So the main thing is that you do need to be careful of with a reverse parallel park is that you're indicating properly and you're not, because sometimes the indicator cancels itself. You need to make sure you put that thing straight back on. So you make sure your indicators are right. Head checks aren't as crucial with a reverse parallel park as they are a 3-point turn because you don't need to look at the cars coming that way. You only need to basically check what's behind you, and that's pretty much it. So just one little head check and you should be fine with the reverse parallel park. The main things are indicators. But in any case, now I'm going to show you how to do one properly. Right, you want to stop dead on with the mirrors to mirrors, chuck it in reverse, chuck on the left indicator, do a head check, go back till you reach on with their door, then full rotate, keep going back till you reach about your mirror will match up with the light. Then you go straight back for a little bit until you get to about in the middle of their door. And then you want to pull a full rotate onto the steering wheel. And then boom, that is how you do the perfect reverse park. So now you've passed the very tricky part of doing a reverse parallel park, we can move on to the final stage of the main big test things, and that is obviously a hazard perception test. Now, to show you exactly what hazards are on the road, what the common hazards are, I went onto a busy main street that had roadworks, pedestrians, city traffic, cars everywhere, and a million hazards left, right, and center. Because this way I can show you guys exactly what you need to look out for. Now, the most common hazards will be signs that are halfway off on the street. So if you're in a roadwork zone, there might be a roadwork sign that's halfway on the street or halfway on the road. You do need to be careful of that. The other main ones are cars pulling out from driveways or from shopping centers or car parks, because there will always be cars looking to pull out from, left and right. So be careful of cars pulling out. If there's pedestrians on the sidewalk or the footpath, that is a hazard, because they can jump out at any moment without you even thinking about it. I know it doesn't sound like, you would, but you never know. So that is also a hazard, and they're just some common ones. I'll obviously be going through a few more on this little drive that I show you. But yeah, now I'm going to show you a lot of hazards on this street that I went on. So as you can see, we're driving now, we're at a set of traffic lights. Most likely the instructor will ask to point out the hazards. So we're driving. Now the current hazards are the cars are oncoming to traffic, so therefore they can spin out, we can run into them. That's one hazard. There's people on the street over there to the right. They can jump out in front of the car at any point, and obviously that becomes a hazard. The guy on the left here, just to the left, he's parked, but he's got his brake lights on. He could pull out at any time. That is a hazard. As you can see, I've got some road work coming up here. Look at those people that just walked out. That's a big hazard. That sign to the left, hazard. Right, there's literally hazards absolutely everywhere. You need to be on the ball. Person to the left there, hazard. These guys, they obviously got a stop sign. It's road work, therefore it's a hazard. So just be aware there are many hazards on the road. Right, now you've completed the hazard perception test. The last few steps of the test, very easy. As long as you know how to drive, that's all that matters. Obviously, I can't teach you how to drive, but when you're driving, make sure your speed limit is very, very close to the actual speed limit. So if the speed limit's 50, you want to be in the range between 45 and 50. If you start doing about 40 in a 50 zone, that's actually not a good sign, because that's too much under the speed limit. So you want to be about 5 kilometers in between that speed limit. So if the speed limit's, for example, 60, then you want to be sitting at about 55 to 60. Whatever you do, do not go over, obviously, but you don't want to drop too far under either. So try and keep it about 5 kilometers difference between your speed limit and the actual speed limit. Now the next thing you do have to keep out for regular driving is obviously indicate every single turn. If you come up to a roundabout, if you come up to an intersection, traffic lights, anything, make sure you indicate, because if you don't indicate, boom, fail. You only get 2 indicators to fail on. If you fail to indicate twice, instant fail. So make sure you use your indicators in the test. Another thing is to not be too over cautious. So another thing is, like, for example, if you're too over cautious, like you get to an intersection and you just stop and you look left and right for hours when it's actually pretty clear, that's like, it doesn't fail you, but it does actually take points off. So you don't want to lose points of being over cautious. If it's relatively clear when you're at an intersection, just go for it. Obviously don't step on it, just go normal speed and you should be fine. But just don't wait until it's like fully clear. Just make sure it's relatively safe and then you should be fine at intersections. But just don't be super over cautious, otherwise you will lose points if you're just sitting there for hours when it's not exactly necessary. Now the final thing you do have to be careful about when regular driving is orange or amber lights. Okay, so if you're driving and there's enough time for you to stop when the light turns orange or amber, make sure you stop. Okay, if you go through an orange or amber light and it ticks to red just before you make it over to the other side, that is an instant fail. So if a light turns orange or amber, hit those brakes softly and just slow down and don't try and go through it. Otherwise you will most likely fail, because you most likely won't make it. Obviously if it's just turned orange when you're like right at the line, of course go for it. But if there's enough time to stop, stop. Even if you have to stop slightly harder than usual, just as long as it's not a and it's more just a alright, so it's just like a soft, gentle but slightly firmer brake. That doesn't matter. Make sure you don't go running orange lights and they turn red, because then that's a bad story and you fail the test. But in any case, guys, I hope these tips were helpful. Feel free to use these tips and tricks. Share this video out with your friends that are trying to get their P license, or just, feel free to share this video out. Be sure to leave a like on it if you enjoyed it. Feel free to subscribe to my channel for more videos on like tips and tricks and stuff, on life hacks, or just like story time videos and all types of content I do on the channel. Feel free to hit that subscribe button. But yeah, this has been Sam Kram's tips on how to pass your P test. I literally passed first go, as I said before, every single test I did, and yeah, I managed to be driving fine on the road. So feel free to use these tips. Good luck with your test. Comment down below if you take a test or if you've got an upcoming test, and if you pass, and just good luck using my tips and tricks. But until next time, thank you so much for watching. My name is Sam Kram, and I'll see you guys in the next video.